One day I found out that my wife had lied to me about going to a bachelorette party with her friends. In reality, she spent the night with her so-called best friend, and later I learned they had been intimate. It wasn't just a lie, it was betrayal. I didn't yell or beg. Instead, I calmly planned everything and made sure she felt the consequences of her actions. I found out my wife cheated on me when I heard her lover tell her he loved her. Live over the phone. It was Saturday night, the kids were asleep, and I was in bed flipping through Netflix when the call came in. The name on the screen, Lucas, her best friend from school. We were never close, so the call instantly raised red flags. I answered without saying a word. A second of silence, then his voice. I love you, Ellie. I don't know what I'll do if you leave. She was there. I heard her voice tremble. Last night was a mistake. I came to end this. I knew I shouldn't keep listening, but I couldn't hang up. They spoke like I didn't exist. Then I heard them kiss. My stomach turned. Ellie had told me she was going away for the weekend with her girlfriends, a girls' retreat before the baby came. Nothing about it seemed suspicious. She left Friday night, gave me a list, mashed potatoes, pajamas, cartoons. I spent 2 full days with the kids, never once questioning her. I trusted her. I wanted to believe everything was okay, even though deep down, I'd always known. This friend of hers was never just a friend. Ellie and I had been together since we were 18. I was the football captain. She was the shy girl from art club. We weren't supposed to end up together, but we did. Bought a house, built a life, had a son. She was 31 now, I was 33. Our second child was due in a couple of months, and it was all falling apart in a single moment. After the call, I lay there holding the phone like it had punched me in the gut. An hour later, Lucas texted me. Screenshots, photos, videos. I don't know why he did it. Maybe to humiliate me, maybe to prove he'd won. One picture showed them standing by a lake. I recognized it instantly. The cabin. I had booked it myself a year ago, before she even got pregnant. He knew I'd recognize it. It felt like something out of a bad TV drama. Lovers, secrets, betrayal. But this was my life, and I knew that from that moment on, everything would be different. After the call, I lay there in the dark, unable to move. The phone was still in my hand. I wanted to smash it against the wall, but I didn't even have the energy for that. One thought kept circling in my head. He did it on purpose. This wasn't a slip-up or an accident. He wanted me to hear it. He tore off the mask, not because he couldn't lie anymore, but because he wanted to win. An hour later, he sent me a message. Not a single word, just attachments, screenshots of their texts, photos, and a short video. All from the weekend my wife supposedly spent with her girlfriends. In one picture, she's wearing the hoodie I gave her, sitting by the fireplace next to him. In the video, they're together, she's smiling, and then he kisses her neck. I closed my eyes, but even there, it kept replaying. I scrolled through the messages, gifs, flirty jokes, love notes. It had been going on for months, things I hadn't seen, or maybe chose not to. I remembered how often I felt like a third wheel, their inside jokes, their constant texting, that strange closeness she always swore was just friendship. And I stayed quiet because I was tired of being the jealous husband, because I trusted her. On Sunday morning, I made pancakes for the kids on autopilot. They were eating, asking for cartoons, and I sat there staring at a photo of Ellie leaning into him, laughing. I couldn't break in front of them. Everything had to look normal. She came back that evening. I heard the door open, her shoes hit the floor, the bag drop. When she walked into the living room, I didn't even turn my head. She passed by and softly said, "Hi." I answered without taking my eyes off the TV. In that moment, I knew she saw it, that I wasn't the same man I was 2 days ago. She looked at me like she was trying to read my face, like she wanted to ask, but was afraid of the answer. I gave her silence, the kind that hits harder than yelling. I decided I wouldn't say a word to her. No questions, no accusations. What mattered wasn't exploding out loud. It was gathering everything I had and hitting with precision. That evening, I locked myself in the bathroom and went through everything Lucas had sent me again. The messages started out friendly, memes, work jokes, talk about TV shows. Then it shifted. "You looked amazing today. I miss our talks. I miss you." And she replied, not casually, not out of politeness. She missed him too. They discussed when they could see each other again. She wrote, "I don't want this to stay a secret, but for now there's no other way." I couldn't believe I was reading this from the woman I'd lived with for over 10 years, the mother of my child. For the first time, I didn't feel pain, just a cold, detached clarity. Something inside me flipped. The next morning, I dropped our son off at daycare and went to work like everything was normal. I spent the day silent, answering emails, sipping coffee, while mapping out every step in my head. I knew where they worked. I helped Ellie write her resume when she applied there. I knew her boss. I knew their strict policy on workplace relationships. I wasn't going to blackmail anyone or lash out. I wanted the truth to do the damage for me. That night, I approached her while she was doing the dishes. She turned around, tense. I simply said, "You weren't with your friends last weekend." She went silent. "I heard it all," Lucas called. "By accident, or maybe not." Her face went pale. "So you know everything?" I nodded. "Everything." She tried to say something, but I stopped her. Turned around and walked out. I didn't want her excuses. I didn't care about the why. The next day, I took the day off, printed the texts and photos, put everything into a folder, and scheduled a meeting with her manager. I arrived at their office 15 minutes before the meeting. The folder with the evidence sat on the passenger seat. I flipped through it one more time, not because I doubted anything, but because I wanted to be fully prepared. The company Ellie worked for had a strict no dating policy between coworkers. It wasn't just something in the contract, they actually enforced it. I knew I couldn't make her regret anything with words, but I could show her consequences. Ellie's manager was a woman in her 50s, tough, all business. We sat in a small conference room, and I slid the folder across the table without saying a word. She began flipping through it. After a couple minutes, she looked up and asked, "Did you take these yourself?" I said, "No. They were sent to me by the person she's having a relationship with. They're coworkers." She didn't pretend to be shocked. She just asked, "Are you sure this was taken here?" I nodded. One of the photos clearly showed the office break area. I recognized the background, the carpet, even the coffee machine. The same place where staff used to relax between meetings, now the backdrop for something entirely different. I saw a flicker of disgust pass through her eyes. We exchanged thanks. Short, cold, professional. I stepped out of the building feeling crystal clear. I hadn't yelled, blackmailed, or begged. I had just presented the facts, and that was enough. That same day, both Ellie and Lucas were called into private meetings. It happened right in the middle of the day, with the office buzzing. He was called in first. 15 minutes later, they summoned her. I waited. 20 minutes later, I saw her walking out of the manager's office, eyes down. Then the manager called for him again. He followed. I knew it was over. And in that exact moment, with everything hanging in the air, I calmly walked into the open office, went to Ellie's desk, and placed the envelope in front of her. It didn't just contain the messages. It held signed divorce papers. She sat frozen. A second later, I said loudly enough for everyone to hear, "I know about your affair. I'm filing for divorce." For a second, the office went completely silent. Someone froze with a coffee mug in hand. Someone else quickly dropped their eyes to the monitor. Ellie sat hunched over like a steamroller had just flattened her. Lucas was still in the manager's office. I turned around and left without saying another word. Out in the parking lot, I exhaled freely for the first time in 2 days. I didn't need revenge for show. I needed her to understand that I wasn't someone she could play secret games with and then beg for forgiveness. I picked up the kids from the nanny and drove to my brother's place. He knew we were going through something, but I didn't get into the details. I just told him we'd be staying for a while. He didn't ask questions. The kids were calm. I did everything I could to make sure they didn't feel like their world had turned upside down. I cooked, read them stories, built Lego sets like everything was normal. Only at night, when they were asleep, I'd lie awake staring at the ceiling, asking myself how long I'd been blind. Throughout the week, Ellie kept texting me. A few short, rambling messages with no excuses. She was asking to talk. I didn't respond. I had nothing to say. I gave her silence. That was her chance. On Friday, I heard from a mutual acquaintance that both she and Lucas had been fired. The company didn't bother sorting out who initiated it. There was evidence, and that was enough. I didn't feel joy. It was just expected. Ellie moved back in with her mother, from what I heard. Lucas disappeared. No emails, no calls. Maybe he thought he'd won when he sent me those files. But in the end, he became the reason for her downfall. She didn't know he'd leaked everything to me. And when she found out, she probably hated him even more than she hated me. I didn't take pleasure in their pain. I just kept moving forward. On Saturday morning, I got up earlier than usual and started looking for an apartment. Not a temporary place, something of my own, even if it was small. I didn't want to live in a house filled with lies. I wanted a new start, without the past, without her. I found an apartment a week later. Just a one-bedroom, nothing special. But it didn't smell like her perfume. There were no mugs that weren't mine, and no one left their phone face down. It was my space. I brought the kids over for the first weekend. We ate pizza on the floor because there was no furniture yet, but they were happy. They didn't ask where their mom was, just hugged me tighter than usual. I hired a lawyer. We filed for divorce officially, without drama. I wanted everything to be clean, even if it was burning inside. We agreed to handle custody peacefully. Technically, it was joint, but in reality, the kids were with me most of the time. Ellie saw them a couple of times a week, took them to the park or for walks. I didn't stop her. I didn't want them punished for adult mistakes. At some point, she asked to talk in person. I agreed, but only on neutral ground. We met at a small cafe. She looked tired, older. sat across from me, silent for a while, then said, "I'm sorry." I didn't reply. I just listened. She admitted Lucas disappeared after they were fired, and she didn't try to contact him. She said things spiraled out of control, that she never wanted to lose her family. But I didn't believe a word of it. I knew if it weren't for that call, she would have kept lying. At one point, she started crying, said she hated herself for what she'd done. It didn't feel good to hear. It didn't make anything easier. I said only one thing. You didn't lose me because of the cheating. You lost me because you lied to my face. Then I left. No scene. No turning back. That night, I took the kids out for pizza. We laughed, ate with our hands like in a movie. And for the first time in a long while, I realized I didn't need to get the past back. It had already burned down. All that was left was ash and the road ahead. A month after our conversation at the cafe, she sent me an official notice. Her lawyer was requesting a revision of the custody schedule. The argument was predictable. The mother needs more time with her children, and that she had regained emotional stability. I wasn't surprised. It wasn't about the kids. It was about control, about rewriting the story in her favor. I met with my attorney the next day. We gathered everything: proof of my day-to-day care, photos of routines, school reports, communication logs. Nothing aggressive, just facts. I didn't want to fight. I wanted peace, but not at the cost of my children's well-being. We went to court 2 weeks later. She sat across from me, dressed modestly, hair tied back, no makeup. She looked like someone trying to play the part of the heartbroken mother. But the judge wasn't moved. My lawyer spoke clearly and calmly. We had documentation of every doctor's appointment, every school event, every bedtime routine I handled alone. Her lawyer tried to claim I was limiting her access. The judge asked her if I had ever denied a visit. She said no, just that he doesn't engage with me. That was true, I didn't, because I wasn't required to. I was co-parenting, not re-entering a relationship. After an hour, the judge made it clear. The custody agreement would remain as is, equal on paper. But in practice, the kids stayed primarily with me. The moment court ended, she stood up, grabbed her bag, and walked out without a word. That was when I knew it was finally done. There were no more battles to win, no games to play, just real life. And in that moment, sitting alone on that cold courtroom bench, I didn't feel like I'd won anything. I just felt quiet, peaceful, like I could finally breathe without waiting for the next blow. I drove home, picked up the kids from school, and we stopped for ice cream. It wasn't a celebration. It was just normal. And after everything that had happened, normal felt like a gift. I sold the old house a few weeks after the court hearing, the one we bought together when we were still dreaming about forever. I didn't want a dollar from her. I just wanted closure. The money went into savings and a college fund for the kids. I didn't tell anyone. No posts, no announcements. Just handed the keys to a new family and walked away. The apartment started to feel like home. I bought a couch, hung some photos. The kids painted pictures that I taped to the fridge. It wasn't fancy, but it was ours. Life didn't become magical overnight, but it became manageable, peaceful. I worked, took care of the kids, learned how to cook better, even started jogging in the mornings. There was no new romance. I wasn't looking for one. I wasn't broken, but I needed time. Time to rebuild the version of myself that didn't have to watch his back every minute. Ellie didn't reach out anymore. No more apologies. No more explanations. Just short, dry texts about school events or pickup times. And that was fine. I didn't hate her. I didn't wish her pain. I just didn't owe her anything anymore. Not trust, not kindness, not space in my head. One night, my son asked, "Why don't we live with Mom?" I told him the truth in the simplest way I could. Because sometimes when people stop treating each other kindly, they have to live in different places. But we both still love you. That part won't change. He nodded and went back to coloring. It was enough for him, and maybe enough for me too. I don't tell this story to seem strong. I wasn't. I broke, quietly and privately, in places no one saw. But I didn't let the break define me. I became something else, someone better. Not because she hurt me, but because I refused to stay where I wasn't respected. In the end, I didn't lose a wife. I lost an illusion. And that, I've realized, was the beginning of everything good.